Hello and welcome. I am MarysRevenge, and today I would like to give you an introduction about recreating Disneyland Anaheim in the game Planet Coaster. Let me take you back 8 years from today, where everything started. Back in 2016, on the 10th October, I began to build the first version of the railroad station entrance. At this time the game was still in alpha and had quite some limitations to it. Some limitations were that the park size was limited by 400 meters. Another one was that you couldn't remove the pre-built park entrance. And of course the game had a lot less pieces than today. In 2017, after the game was released, I tried to do the same station, but now in more detail. From this point on, you had a lot more pieces in the game, including art pieces, which turned out to be very important later on when doing the big plaza areas on Esplanade area. While at the time I was quite happy how the railroad station turned out, something was off. It's not that obvious, but it's absolutely critical. It's the scale. And guess what I did? I made a ruler out of in-game pieces. Now this actually made it possible to measure out dimensions from sites like Google Maps or Earth and transfer them in the game. Especially round objects, which are quite difficult to construct in Planet Coaster, were easily doable with the help of those rulers. Now let me take you on a guided tour through Mainstreet in the current version of the park. On my third attempt of recreating the railroad station, my primary goal was to get the scale right. With the rulers this was now doable. However, the next problem was that every item in the game is overscaled, on average around 2 to 4 times, so I had to learn to use the pieces in the best way possible, so that the scenery would look as close to real life scale. Once I finished the railroad station in this stage, I was truly happy how it turned out. But again, there were still some nits and bits that I was not so happy with. One thing was, for example, that I had to hide the actual railroad station in the ground underneath the scenery. Therefore it wouldn't let me to actually place it down, because the terrain was so close to the station. But at some point it worked. By the way, if you are interested in taking a closer look into the railroad station, I uploaded it on the Steam workshop. So now let's actually start the tour. After the station, I began to build Mainstreet. The very first building or area was the relaxation area directly behind the left tunnel. It's one of my favorite buildings with a greenish double-pitched roof, which greet the guests when they enter. In front there are wooden pergolas and some benches. On the opposite side there's a little wall with a diagonal pattern made out of hedges. We continue our tour with the guided tours building. We start to see the iconic Victorian, in this case maybe even pre-Victorian style, which the Mainstreet follows. Most buildings on this side, including the city hall you see here, are made out of brickwork interrupted by vertical and horizontal yellowish trims, columns, windows or decorative elements. Right next to the city hall we have the fire department. I added the iconic barbershop quartet in front of it. Next to the fire department is a gate which leads to the back lot and the tram station. Next to that you have a bunch of smaller buildings, now also made out of multiple materials like wood. On the corner you see maybe the most iconic building from Mainstreet, the Emporium building. In the middle you see the main plaza. On this plaza Walt Disney held his famous dedication speech in 1955. Now let's switch sides and enter the park through the right tunnel. Before the first building you see a small alley. It leads to the public restrooms and backlot. The first building is the Disneyland gift shop. On this side the buildings are a lot more empire styled, I would say. Next to it we have the Disney Gallery or Disneyland Story building, which inhibits the great moments with Mr. Lincoln animatronic show. and besides that there is the Mad Hatter gift shop. Behind the blue building there is a shortcut that's used for the cast members or guided tours. Next to it, the transition to the Victorian style buildings. The prominent corner building inhabits the Disney Showcase gift shop as well as a magic shop. We continue on the actual main street now. Next to the corner there is a series of mid-sized buildings including the cinema. On the opposing side, again a bunch of Victorian-style buildings, but most prominent the Crystal Arcade. It was quite a challenge to make it an actual round shape with the text perfectly aligned to it. Small wooden bracket 1 to 5 did the job well here. A little joke for the ones who know. In the middle of the main street there are two alleys, which are surrounded by smaller buildings. Here you see the left alley. Let's fly through the right alley. Again, many smaller buildings with the corner buildings being most prominent. Back on Main Street, another series of buildings, alternately between brickwork and wood. On the left side we have the Carnation Cafe, another series of buildings, and most prominent Penny Arcade. Lots of art pieces, holy moly. We are getting closer to the end of Main Street. On the right side it ends with the Photo Supply building. On the left side at the end of Main Street we have the Refreshment corner. Important fact, beside the building we got the ragtime piano. Famous pianist Rod Miller and later Alan Thompson Jr. played some amazing rags here. I'll link some videos of them in the description. Really recommend them. The main street finishes up in two alleys. Here you see the right one. Another series of smaller buildings. On the left you see a gate that leads to a before mentioned shortcut from the blue building. The thematic Main Street area ends with the big two corner cafes beside those alleys. Here the Victorian style roofs really come to shine and present this style in all glory. I noticed when building that both cafes have a natural 90-degree round shape so that they connect, in this case, Main Street with Tomorrowland. The Jolly Holiday Cafe on the left side is a bit more angular in style and connects Main Street with Adventureland. Last but not least, we have the big round hub which connects Main Street, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, Frontierland and Adventureland. Around the hub you see tracks of the tram. Since round tracks are not in the game, so I used a coaster for that purpose and moved it underground. Time went on and at some point I finished all the facades on Main Street, including the two big corner cafes at the end. At the start of 2018, Main Street was done, including the backlot. With backlot, I mean all infrastructure that is required to operate shops, rides or utility and should mostly be hidden from the guests. To build the backlot I used mostly art or sci-fi pieces. Cables, tubes, railing, pathwalks, stairs, scaffolding, tires, aircon units. All those pieces helped in making the backlot and ultimately the Main Street look realistic. I learned that for realism, we want to make the park look like actually operating on the fore and the background. While I stayed accurate pretty much on the foreground, for the actual backlot, I improvised a lot, since there is not that much reference to go through. Back then, I could not believe how far I made it, from the humbling beginnings with that cute railroad station to a full-sized operational Mainstreet. On the 28th February 2018, I started my first live stream on Twitch. It was the most natural decision to also allow other people to watch on a regular basis. It was mostly a 5 to 8 hour stream of building and showcasing already built stuff. In this fashion, I built 90% of the current park. As the park grew in size, the more performance issues I encountered. The frames per second dropped from 30 to 40 average to around 20 and in later stages to 10, which was unbearable, including crashes that happened especially when I tried to stream and record at the same time. Still to this day, I hate myself and cannot explain why the heck I did not record the progress in a properly way. I recorded it only partly here and there. The only bits recorded are Tomorrowland, Adventureland, Frontierland a bit, Matterhorn a bit, Esplanade a bit, Fantasyland, New Orleans, Haunted Mansion, Indiana Jones Ride, Splash Mountain are not recorded. At the end of 2019, I did my last stream on Twitch, halfway on Splash Mountain with just 8 frames per second. I just could not continue. Until now, there was a long break because of life, but I want to come back in the following manner. Number 1. I want to record detailed in-depth videos like this one about each thematic area, especially those where there are no recording exists anymore. So this one would be the video about Mainstreet. Number 2. Recording time-lapse building videos with commentary with the footage that still exists. Also plan that my next video, so the next one after this one, will be a time-lapse video. Number 3. And I think you are most excited about this one. I want to record actually POV footage of the rides. Currently mostly done: Space Mountain, Jungle Cruise, Big Thunder Mountain, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion and Matterhorn. Number 4. I will record YouTube shorts about each thematic area. So basically you get the same thing in a condensed format like number 1. And now to number 5. I plan to release a work in progress workshop entry of this park. One side note to the performance. Today I get in the park average 20 to 30 FPS, and it seems also to stay in that range. My dear hope is to actually finish this park. Maybe with upcoming future hardware, it's actually playable. So I believe in this manner I can give a deeply insight and a recorded documentation about this endeavor. The drive that keeps me going is actually the fascination of a real theme park captured in a video game. But wait, isn't there a sequel announced to release this fall? Sure there is, but it will have no impact on this park and its future. I want to talk about the sequel in upcoming videos and a certain idea I have. So far, I hope you enjoyed this not so brief introduction, but hopefully clarified and illustrated the beginning, present and future of this wondrous journey. Until then, thanks for watching.